Mountain removal mining is a form of surface mining that involves the mining of the ridge of the mountain. Coal seams are extracted from a mountain by removing the land above the seams. This method is used in the Appalachian Mountains. Mountaintop removal has been practiced since 1960. Increased demand for coal in the United States sparked by the 1973 and 1979 petroleum crisis. This process created more economic forms of coal mining than the traditional underground mining method involving hundreds of workers, triggering the first widespread use of mountaintop removal. This process produced low sulfur coal, a cleaner burning form, which started in the U.S. Clean Air Act that tightened emissions on high sulfur coal processing. The land is deforested prior to the mining operation, and the lumber is either sold or burned. According to the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act of 1977, SMCRA, the topsoil is supposed to be removed and set aside for later reclamation. Coal companies are often granted waivers, and instead of reclaiming the mountain with topsoil substitute, the waivers are granted if adequate amounts of topsoil are not naturally presented on the ridge top. Once the area is cleared, miners use explosives to blast away the overburden, the rock, and the subsoil to expose coal seams beneath. The overburden is then removed by various mechanical means to areas of the ridge previously mined. These areas are most economical areas of storage, and they are located close to the active pit of the exposed coal. If the ridge top topography is too steep to adequately handle the amount of soil produced, then the additional storage is used in nearby valleys and hollows, creating what is known as a valley fill or a hollow fill. Any streams in the valley are buried. The front end loader or excavator then removes the coal, where it is transported to a processing plant. Once coal is removed, it is completed, the mining operators backstack excess from the next area to be mined into the now empty pit. After backsacking and grading of the excess it has been completed, topsoil is layered over that layer. Next, grass seed is spread in a mixture of seeds, fertilizer, and mulch made from recycled newspaper. Depending on surface land owners wishes the land to be filled or reclaimed by adding trees. If pre-approved, post-mining land used for forest land or wildlife habitat. If the landowner has requested the land can be reclaimed, it to be used as a pasture land, economically developed, and other uses specified. Almost half of the electricity generated in the United States is produced by coal-fired power plants. Mountaintop removal accounted for less than 5% of U.S. coal production in 2001. In some regions, however, the percentage is higher. For example, mountaintop removal provided 30% of the coal mined in West Virginia in 2006. In mountaintop removal, through the use of explosives and large machinery, more than 2.5 times as much coal can be extracted per worker per household than the traditional underground mines, greatly reducing the need for workers in Kentucky. And the number of workers that has declined over 60% from 1979 to 2006. The coal industry asserts the surface mining techniques, such as mountaintop removal, are safer for miners than sending miners underground. Critics argue that mountaintop removal is a destructive and unsustainable practice that benefits a small number of corporations at the expense of local communities and the environment. Though the main issue has been over the physical altercation of the land, opponents of the practice have also criticized mountaintop removal for the damage done to the environment by massive transport trucks and by the environmental damage done by burning of coal for power. Blasting at mountaintop removal sites also expels dust and rocks flying into the air, which can disturb and settle onto private property nearby. The dust may contain sulfur compounds, which corrode structures and is a health hazard. Published studies also show a high potential for human health impacts. These may result from contact with streams or exposure to airborne toxins and dust. Adult hospitalizations for chronic pulmonary disorders and hypertension are elevated as a result of county-level coal production. Rates of mortality, lung cancer, as well as chronic heart, lung, kidney disease are also increased. These defect rates were more pronounced in the most recent period studies, suggesting the health effects of mountaintop mining related air and water contamination to be cumulative. Mountaintop areas that have been reclaimed provide flat land suitable for many uses. It also provides more land for game and animal populations. The land will never take the same form it did in the past, but there is new room for human population growth, business developments, and recreational areas for families. The jobs that mountaintop removal has provided has helped with poverty levels in the Appalachia, but it also takes away viable agriculture and sustainable forests. There is also an impact on county tax revenue through absentee land ownership. To replace mountaintop removal, the Appalachian region should invest in both energy efficient and renewable energy projects. The downside to the solution is the reliance on government assistance for funding. Hopefully, once the programs are implemented, the communities will become self-sustaining and no longer rely on government support. The wind industry in the United States already operates more than 35,000 turbines and employs 85,000 people, a number equal to those employed by the coal industry. Renewable energy in the form of wind turbines can produce 328 megawatts of wind energy. That could provide 70,000 homes with power. This type of energy only requires 50 to 100 acres of forest, which is less than 2% of the proposed mining area. It's a clean form of energy which would not affect the aquatic life, human life, or environment. It's the only option to continue our way of life. It also provides employment which could sustain the former miner and provide him a way to continue producing energy in a more efficient manner and that is healthier. Renewable energy will always be necessary, but there is a much better way to prevent pollution of our environment. We must choose the healthiest way to sustain our earth.